Discovered the incredible secret behind a single dad's toolbox that left the CEO stunned. On a seemingly ordinary day, Jack Thompson strolled past the sleek glass facade of a tech startup, the kind of place where dreams of innovation soared high above the cornfields of his small town. It was supposed to be another errand when he got the call, "Our copier's down. Can you help?" A favor for an old buddy, yet as he tightened his tool belt, Jack felt the familiar double-edged sword of anxiety slicing through him. What if he fumbled in front of all those suits, all that corporate polish? As he stepped inside, the sharp contrast of crisp air conditioning hit him. Jack's hands were calloused and warm, but here, in this sterile environment, he felt exposed. He inhaled deeply, the scent of ozone mingling with something sharp pressure. There stood Amelia Hart, the CEO, her gaze a mix of disbelief and annoyance as he approached the copier like it was some rare, untamed beast to be tamed. Jack opened the machine with practiced ease, delving into the inner guts of the contraption that had brought productivity to a screeching halt. He could feel Amelia's eyes bore into him and the subtle tension of the room. "You really think you can fix this?" she asked, laced with skepticism. Jack hesitated for a moment, uncertainty bubbling up inside him. Could he really transform a room full of corporate elites with a simple tool? Before he could reply, thoughts of Lily flashed through his mind, a girl with laughter like music, fundamental to his world. The pang of worry struck him. Was he missing out on another day of practice? He was torn. The warm glow of routine at home battled the sharp allure of respectability here. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Completion ignited as he rumbled through wires and gears, his instincts guiding him. Yet with each movement, the weight of the room felt heavier, pressure building under the surface. He imagined himself unraveling this puzzle, revealing his worth, but would they see him as just another dad? The thought flitted through Jack's mind like a bird scared from its nest. As he finally secured the last screw, the machinery whirred back to life. Gasps echoed throughout. Yet the accomplishment felt hollow, questions looming. In this moment, did he really achieve anything, or had he simply stepped into a world that would always view him as inadequate? The lingering look of disbelief in Amelia's eyes sent a ripple of doubt into his core. He questioned his right to stand here, wondering if he was climbing a ladder or just a wall. Taking a breath, he faced the looming uncertainty, imagining how his moves could change the narrative of craftspeople and fathers like him. But could he fight against the doubt that gnawed at him now? As Jack stared down the boardroom table, he felt the full force of the stakes pressing in. What if he couldn't carry this weight? What if he stumbled in their eyes? The room began to spin, unease coiling in his gut as he came to the brink of an irrevocable truth. There would be no easy path forward, only confrontation. Would he shrink back and retreat to comfortable shadows? Or would he step into the light, ready to defy expectation? The air thickened with potential as he prepared to speak. The future of both his career and fatherhood hung precariously in the balance, waiting for the words to break free. Jack stood before the boardroom, the eyes of corporate professionals fixated on him, more intense than the inner workings of the copier he had just revived. He sensed the palpable tension, a silent countdown toward realization. Neglecting to acknowledge the fleeting fear that clawed at him, he recognized a transformative potential tugging at his core. This moment could be the catalyst for the life he envisioned, but it demanded more than mechanical skill. It called for a surge of courage. "Actually, I can fix it," he began, voice steadier than he felt. "But that's not what you need, is it?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun, and Jack could see curiosity flicker in Amelia's eyes. He hadn't just repaired machinery, he had unearthed an unexpected invitation to redefine his place in this world. "We live in a culture that prioritizes polished presentations over practical skills," Jack pressed on, his pulse quickening. "My toolbox is not just filled with wrenches and screwdrivers, it's filled with my ability to adapt, to solve problems that don't fit within a straight line." For the first time, he felt the surrounding suits lean in, their interest piqued by the authenticity behind his words. What Jack didn't realize was how each proclamation solidified his own belief in himself, creating ripples that transcended mere pride. Voices in his head nodded him, reminding him of the moments he'd chosen safety over risk, but now? Each word seemed to chip away at that mental barrier, converting self-doubt into a kind of raw conviction. Every day as a single dad, I'm faced with challenges that no manual can prepare you for. If I didn't adapt, my daughter wouldn't thrive. His mention of Lily was not merely anecdotal, it was a cornerstone of his identity. Jack's gaze met Amelia's, steady and fierce. You see, I'm not just fixing machines. I'm structuring a future for her, learning not just to be a father, but a fierce advocate for the value of blue-collar work in a world that's quick to overlook it. Part of him expected a scoff, perhaps an eye roll. Yet Amelia maintained her intensity, layers of admiration interwoven with surprise. In that moment, Jack understood that he was not merely battling skepticism, he was forging an unexpected alliance and ally against a culture of dismissal. Let this resonate, Jack continued, ignited by newfound clarity. We can intonate the value of practicality under fluorescent lights, molding resilience. There's an integrity in hands-on work that transcends beyond corporate titles. He felt a shift in energy. The weight of judgment from earlier had transformed into an atmosphere of inquiry. Encouraged, he leaned even further into his own narrative. This is my journey, and I'm just beginning to unravel it in a world that continuously attempts to box me in. As he spoke, he saw each nod around the table translate into budding respect and unspoken acknowledgement of what he brought forth. But beneath his bravura, a nagging urgency persisted. The battle was just beginning. Could words alone shift perceptions? Would he find allies within this corporate maze, or was he still destined to vie for acceptance? The room fell quiet, the air thick with potential. Jack's heart raced, and a single revelation crystallized in his mind. This moment didn't just introduce him, it demanded scrutiny. What kind of future was he willing to negotiate for himself and Lily? Before the silence could settle again, Amelia cleared her throat. You make a strong case, Jack. I think we need to discuss how that toolbox of yours can fit within our framework. Her words opened a door, yet Jack could feel the threshold tremble. Would he truly step through or hesitate, fearing the unknown? The next move could be his chance to redefine more than just a machine, but an entire path forward for all fathers caught in this whirlwind. He stood on the edge of destiny, each breath indicating the weight of the moment, ready to step into the unknown, where each choice might echo his transformation. But in the back of his mind, the stakes had never felt higher. Could he maintain this momentum, or would the floor beneath him give way? The boardroom buzzed with unspoken questions. Amelia's gaze held Jack captive, beckoning him to delve deeper into his vision. The air felt electric, a swirling mix of hope and trepidation as he pushed himself further into the narrative he had begun to weave. What exactly do you envision, Jack? Amelia prompted, breaking the thick silence. The room seemed to breathe with anticipation as all eyes lingered on him, each pair urging him to articulate a future no one had laid out before. Jack inhaled sharply, summoning courage amidst the storm of uncertainty. I want to establish a program that values practical skills and real-world problem-solving, he stated, his voice gaining strength. We can use my experience, the grit, the adaptability to create workshops where employees learn the hands-on approach to challenges they face daily. It's not just about fixing copiers, it's about rethinking how we solve problems within our organization. A flicker of enthusiasm ignited among the board members, but the question remained, did he truly believe this could work? Jack pushed against his own doubt. Could he nurture this seed of an idea into a reality, or was he a fool walking on thin ice? The thought of Lily bubbled up beneath the surface of his resolve, acting as an anchor. She was his motivation, the bright light guiding him through the moments that felt insurmountable. For her, he thought, he could face this looming challenge head-on. By focusing on real-world skills, he continued, we not only empower our workforce, we foster a culture of innovation and resilience. Imagine translating these values into measurable outcomes: smarter efficiency, lower turnover, higher satisfaction. Heads nodded, and the gathered professionals exchanged glances, but Jack could sense skepticism lurking. He steadied himself, remembering the feeling of tightly wound anxiety now transforming into clarity. But there's also an underlying principle I need to address, he added, emphasizing the weight of his next words. In a world dominated by tech-savvy solutions, we often overlook those who thrive through tactile experience. Their voices matter. There's integrity in being hands-on, but we must consider how society undervalues this labor. I want us to champion that aspect. With each utterance, he moved further from the narratives that had once suppressed him. In that space, something shifted within Jack, a real emotion that vibrated with authenticity. He glanced at Amelia when he saw her smile genuinely. This wasn't just professional interest, it was beginning to resonate on a personal level. Jack, I believe this can work. But how do we translate these ideas into a strategy? She inquired, her expression softening, inviting collaboration. The challenge ignited a fire in Jack, and suddenly, the fears that had clouded his mind began to evaporate. He envisioned a series of workshops, a mentorship program pairing seasoned tradespeople with up-and-coming professionals longing for an alternative path to success. The prospect danced tantalizingly before him, igniting aspirations that had lain dormant. From workshops to mentorships, we can reshape the workplace narrative. Create partnerships with local schools. Jack spoke faster now, fueled by the adrenaline of clarity. He sketched ideas rapidly, letting creativity flow as he outlined each facet on a blank notepad. We can bridge the gap between learning and doing, encouraging kids to see that trades are an equally noble pursuit as climbing corporate ladders. Excitement rippled through the room, and Jack's heart swelled. Yet beneath the rush lay a gnawing fear. What if this spark extinguished before it could catch fire? What if he failed to bring this vision into reality? Voices started to intermingle, ideas bouncing off each other like static electricity. It was a simulation of growth, and all Jack could do was grasp the opportunity as it unfolded, dancing on the knife's edge between possibility and dread. As they moved into deeper discussions, he realized that this moment required more than conviction, it demanded diplomacy, collaboration, and an unwavering belief in his proposal. But dealt with newfound possibilities came the weight of responsibility. Could he navigate the complexities of corporate structures, balancing pragmatism with creativity? The stakes weren't just professional, they were profoundly personal, a legacy he hoped to construct not just for himself and his daughter, but for all those like him who felt hidden behind the shiny veneer of a polished society. Jack breathed in the warm atmosphere, steeping himself in this opportunity. Yet as they moved toward semblance, an unsettling thought crept in. What if other voices emerged in opposition, casting shadows over his resolve? Just as he felt poised to conquer the day, a knock sounded at the door. Jack turned, his heart racing again. What could that possibly mean? Would it signal conflict or opportunity? The door creaked open, drawing the attention of everyone in the boardroom. The newcomer was Sarah, the company's operations manager, her expression a curious blend of curiosity and annoyance. Sorry to interrupt, she said, crossing the threshold with a purposeful stride. But we need to discuss the logistics of your proposal, Jack. Jack's stomach sank slightly at her tone. He had long considered Sarah an ally, but there was something in her eyes that hinted at a looming challenge. Of course, I'm open to feedback, he replied, masking his apprehension with a calm demeanor. As the group settled back into their seats, Jack felt the energy shift. Amelia exchanged a glance with him, her encouragement still bright in her demeanor, but Jack could sense the stakes had changed. This wasn't merely about ideas now, it was about how they would implement them in the practical world, a realm he both cherished and feared. How do you propose we fund these workshops? Sarah began, laying her cards on the table. With limited resources and budget cuts looming, bringing in seasoned tradespeople isn't just a question of logistics, it's financial suicide. The air thickened with tension. Jack's heart raced as he attempted to project confidence. He hadn't considered the monetary implications in his rush of enthusiasm. He brainstormed quickly. He could either fold under the pressure or prove his competence. We could start small, he offered, wishing he could present something more tangible. Pilot workshops funded through a grant application. Organizations are looking to support skills training. Grants take time, Jack, Sarah shot back, her tone more critical than constructive. What happens while we're waiting? This isn't a charity, it's a business. People are paying to be here. Jack felt the weight of her gaze, the challenge evident in her eyes. He was beginning to realize how easily his vision could unravel if he didn't think strategically. He squeezed the notepad tightly, the blank pages a reminder of plans yet to be solidified. Perhaps we can brainstorm alternative funding sources, Amelia suggested, trying to shift the tension. Local businesses might be interested in sponsoring some events for community goodwill. That's a start, Sarah conceded, though her skepticism remained. But what metrics will you use to gauge success? What happens if this doesn't resonate with participants? The doubts gnawed at Jack's confidence. Did he have what it took to drive this vision home against resistance? He could feel layers of anxiety piling on, a cacophony of what-ifs. Yet, amid the chaos, something in him stirred. This was just a conversation, a testing ground for both ideas and integrity. Metrics are critical, Jack responded, conscious of the way his voice steadied in contrast to his thoughts. I propose establishing clear benchmarks. For example, attendance rates at workshops, participant surveys measuring skill development, and employee retention rates over time. The room fell silent, the suggestion buoying Jack's spirits slightly. Maybe he could turn Sarah's scrutiny into an opportunity for clarity. However, he continued, we must remain open to adjusting our approach based on feedback. Rigidity can kill innovation. Sarah regarded him, her lips pursed as though weighing the validity of his words. Jack sensed she was still not completely sold, but a flicker of curiosity played across her features. All right, Jack. Let us develop a strategy that allows for flexibility and clear accountability, she relented. Something inside Jack shifted, this was a victory, however small. Negotiation, he realized, was part of his evolution. He was forging a path toward leadership, understanding that to invite change also meant to embrace scrutiny. Then let us assemble a team, Amelia interjected, breaking the lingering tension. We can start small, iterate, and prove to the board the need for this change. As discussions began to flow around him, Jack felt invigorated, yet a pang of doubt remained lurking in the recesses of his mind. What if they hit unexpected obstacles? What if detractors within the company rallied against them? The prospect loomed heavily over his newfound hope. Just as he thought he could contain his rising confidence, another knock echoed through the room, this time more insistent. Jack's pulse quickened again. Who else stood at the door, ready to challenge or support this fragile momentum he had begun to build? Would it be an ally, or would it lead to further complications that could derail everything he had worked so hard for? The door swung open, revealing Nick, a senior executive known for his unwavering skepticism. Jack's heart thudded. Nick's reputation for challenging ideas was almost legendary, his incisive critiques unraveling even the most robust proposals. Sorry, everyone. Am I interrupting? Nick's smooth voice bypassed pleasantries. He stepped in, hands tucked into his sleek blazer as his eyes narrowed at Jack. Jack felt a bead of sweat trickle down his spine. No, not at all. We were just discussing. I heard you're planning workshops aimed at skill development, Nick interjected, not bothered by Jack's attempt to steer the conversation. I have some reservations about this initiative. The tension in the room thickened, and Jack braced himself. He had achieved a small victory with Sarah's test of his ideas, but Nick's scrutiny was a different beast altogether. Yes, we believe it can be beneficial, Jack replied, forcing calm into his voice. Beneficial? To whom, exactly? Nick leaned forward, his gaze probing. Who's your target audience here? This sounds like just another corporate pet project to fluff the budget. Jack opened his mouth, struggling to find the words to counter the accusation. He felt the weight of everyone's gaze on him, and for a moment, doubt crept back in. Was this merely an exercise in futility? We're focused on employee engagement and retention as key outcomes, he said finally, his tone firmer. Skilled employees are critical to our company's success. The workshops can enhance their capabilities, ultimately increasing our competitive advantage. Nick scoffed lightly, shaking his head. Compelling as it sounds, those are vague promises. You mentioned grants, sponsorships. How are we going to keep operations running without guaranteed buy-in from the staff? Jack swallowed hard, feeling the pressure to not only respond but to soar above it. I propose kicking off with a pilot program, inviting feedback as we move forward. It will feedback? You're cradling the very detail that could choke your initiative, Nick interrupted again. Until we see actual participation and positive metrics, this is just another meeting on the calendar. Jack's mind raced. He had to convert this confrontation into momentum. Let us engage employees in planning, he proposed. If they feel ownership in the process from the get-go, participation won't be an issue. The room was silent for a moment as Jack glanced at the faces around him. Sarah's demeanor softened slightly, a flicker of understanding passing between them. Maybe this was a shared challenge. Nick's eyebrow raised in curiosity. And how do you plan to ensure their involvement? If they sense this workshop is more fluff than substance, they'll tune out completely. Jack recognized the opportunity woven into Nick's skepticism. That's why I believe we need to gather opinions from different departments during the planning stages. By identifying their needs up front, we can create workshops tailored specifically to those areas, making it relevant and impactful. There was a slight nod from Sarah, and even Amelia seemed to lean forward, her interest piqued. Yet lingering in the back of Jack's mind, the gnawing fear that he was still on a tightrope made him sweat against the boardroom coolness. Nick smiled, but it lacked warmth. All right, smart kid, I'll give you that. But let us see if your team has the fortitude to take this to the next level. If they don't, this might just fall into obscurity. The pressure was palpable. Jack felt the weight of expectation on his shoulders, yet something deep inside him surged forward. He was no longer just defending an idea, he was fighting for a vision he now believed in fiercely. As the discussion transitioned, allowing voices around him to brainstorm next steps, Jack felt galvanized. This was just the beginning, but could he sustain the momentum against the persistent doubts welling up inside? The once daunting prospect of team assembly transformed into a thrilling challenge. But lurking in the shadows, he could almost hear the whispers of potential dissenters within the company. Jack would have to face them sooner than later. And amid the newfound determination coursing through him, one question loomed larger than the rest. Could he convince everyone that his vision wasn't merely survival but the key to thriving in uncertain times? The meeting room buzzed with chatter as ideas flowed freely, ignited by Jack's proposal. Yet, beneath the surface, unease festered. He sensed a division among his colleagues, some eager to support his vision, while others wore skepticism like an armor. As the discussion progressed, doubts returned, echoing in Jack's mind. Could he really pull this off? In the days that followed, Jack transformed the conversation into action, convening small groups across departments. He utilized a collaborative approach, asking open-ended questions to unravel their needs and aspirations. As the team gathered and articulated their pain points, Jack listened intently, committing to memory every concern, every suggestion. How empowering it felt to shift from defense to alliance building. Look, we can't afford another program that doesn't yield tangible results, Amelia, a finance analyst, said during one session. The starkness of her words struck a chord. Jack felt the realization sink in, effectiveness had to become the ultimate goal. How could he make them see that pursuing skill development wasn't an indulgence, but a necessity? In that moment, a glimmer of insight surfaced. He needed to relate the workshops directly to organizational success metrics. If he could craft a narrative that directly tied employee growth to KPIs, perhaps even Nick would come around. He envisioned a presentation data-driven, filled with stories of individuals transformed by training, grounded firmly within the realities of their figures. But with every strategy formed, the seeds of self-doubt sprouted once again. Am I qualified to lead this initiative? What if the data doesn't support my claims? Jack's fingers drummed a nervous rhythm against his notebook as he dissected his plan. Yet, amidst the turmoil of uncertainty, a new determination infiltrated his resolve. Needed validation cascaded within him. Their success would reflect his ability to connect and inspire, Days turned into a week, and the momentum continued to build. Jack's team crafted detailed plans and drafted preliminary outreach to potential sponsors. He was living fully in the challenge, yet conversations with Nick loomed on the horizon like storm clouds threatening the progress he'd made. Did he have what it took to persuade someone so entrenched in skepticism? The day of the presentation drew near. Jack sat at his desk, a torrent of preparation washing over him. He visualized each detail: the room, the faces, and most crucially, Nick's expression. Jack narrowed his focus, rehearsing responses to anticipated questions and sharpening his narrative. As he was lost in thought, the door creaked open, and Sarah cautiously entered. "I heard about your meeting with Nick tomorrow," she said, her voice laced with concern. "You're determined, but are you ready for the challenge?" "I have to be," Jack replied, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about changing how we do things here. I want to redeem what we stand for as a company." "Just remember," Sarah cautioned, "sometimes it's not just about hard evidence. You need to appeal to what's possible, connect with them emotionally." Her words resonated within him, a seed planting a new idea. Perhaps he could borrow from personal experiences, weaving in narratives that humanize the data. Stories of collaboration, success, and mutual growth could bridge gaps, touching on the values that resonated with his colleagues, something Nick might not resist questioning. That night, as he prepared his notes, he paused. What he didn't know was whether he could muster the courage to reveal the vulnerabilities buried beneath his polished facade. Would he dare to expose the truth about his struggles and triumphs? The lines between professional growth and personal revelation blurred in Jack's mind. Just as he was beginning to align everything for his presentation, a whisper of fear sank in. He would soon be standing on a precipice, half filled by hope and half with dread. Could he transform his own trepidations into a catalyst for change in a room full of skeptics? Or would the pressure unearth his insecurities, demolishing everything he had worked towards? Tomorrow held the potential for revelation, but with it came the risk of failure. Jack clenched his fists, eyes narrowing at the enormity of the moment. He realized the time had come to face not just his colleagues, but the doubts that shadowed him. Would he stand firm, or would he falter? Jack woke early, heart pounding, the weight of the day pressing heavily against him. As he methodically shuffled through his presentation materials, he couldn't shake the growing realization that beneath the professional stakes lay a personal battle waiting to unfold. Today was not just about the proposal, it was a chance to confront his own vulnerabilities, to transform what he regarded as weaknesses into strengths. He dressed purposefully, choosing a shirt that felt slightly more polished than usual. Today he would not just present data and metrics but would weave a narrative that highlighted his resolve. The echoes of Sarah's words ricocheted in his mind, vulnerable yet strong. If he truly wanted to foster a meaningful connection with his colleagues, he'd have to step into the ring with his authentic self, insecurities and all. Arriving at the office, he navigated the familiar hallways with a sense of trepidation. Each step felt heavier as he imagined the skeptical expressions looming ahead, particularly that of Nick. Did he have what it took to convince a man who thrived on efficiency and cold hard numbers? Jack suppressed the flickers of self-doubt threatening to unravel his confidence. He had spent a week building support, and the energy he generated felt palpable. The meeting room was a kaleidoscope of emotions. Colleagues settled in, their eyes flickering between curiosity and skepticism as Jack took center stage. He could feel the collective breath held in anticipation, and it ignited something within him, a fierce determination. "Good morning, everyone," Jack began, his own voice sounding steadier than he felt. He launched into his data-driven presentation, but as he reached the section focusing on real success stories from past workshops, he took a pause. This was the pivotal moment. Let's take a step back. I want to share a personal story. The room shifted slightly, the tension was palpable, and he could see eyes darting with intrigue. "I'm a single dad," he confessed, allowing a crack in his polished facade to emerge. "Balancing work and parenting hasn't just been a job for me, it's a challenge that demands constant learning. I knew if I wanted to be a good father, I had to evolve. Just like we must evolve as a company to remain relevant and effective." As Jack shared snippets of his journey, moments of doubt, triumphs, the clumsy grace of balancing it all, he could almost hear the skepticism soften. He articulated the parallels between personal growth and professional development, connecting the success of his children to the skills they learned through challenges. He narrated how vulnerability could lead to resilience, and how embracing growth hung in the balance of overcoming fear and uncertainty. With each word, he felt the grip of self-doubt loosen, replaced by a budding confidence that he hadn't anticipated. The data was there, supporting every narrative twist he made. But it was the humanity of his story that began to paint the room in shades of empathy. He could see it in their eyes. And that is why we can't afford to think of training as just another corporate expense, he continued, locking eyes with Nick. It's an investment in our individual capabilities and, in turn, the organization's future. We must be willing to take that risk together. Jack concluded, waiting for the ripple of silence to break. His heart raced as he opened the floor for questions. But behind the adrenaline, he sensed a brick wall of skepticism beginning to crumble. Interesting perspective, Jack, Nick finally said, crossing his arms with a thoughtful furrow on his brow. However, you must convince us how this translates into measurable outcomes. As Jack prepared to respond, a bolt of realization struck him. The groundwork had been laid, not just in data but through shared humanity. He could counter with numbers and projections, but it would require something deeper to fully shift the dynamics. Could this be the moment he truly connected? Jack's mind raced. He could pivot to discuss quantitative analyses of past workshops, but would that satisfy Nick's unyielding scrutiny? Or should he lean further into the emotional resonance of his approach, exposing the reality of balancing personal and professional growth? The tension in the room hung thick. Jack took a breath, ready to navigate a tightrope between passion and precision, knowing full well the outcome could redefine his place in the organization. But now, with the stakes raised, a new challenge loomed. Would he find the strength to meld these dual aspects into a cohesive argument? Or would he retreat to the safety of numbers, leaving the human element untouched? The answer sat heavily atop the precipice of his next words. Jack's mind raced, searching for the right words as he faced Nick's challenge. It felt like standing at the edge of a precipice. Behind him lay the familiarity of numbers, behind a veil of comfort, and ahead loomed the daunting expanse of emotional connection. He could hear his heartbeat echo in his ears. The urgency to make his next move felt as electric as it was frightening. Nick, he started, his voice steady despite the internal storm, the measurable outcomes you're looking for lie not just within metrics but in engagement and adaptability. It's about cultivating a workforce that thrives on resilience rather than simply executing orders. It's about generating a culture where employees grow, where they connect, and where they feel invested. Those are things we can measure through retention rates and productivity metrics. The words spilled from him with an intensity he hadn't anticipated, fueled by a conviction that ignited as he spoke. He could see it in the shift of Nick's posture, the slight uncrossing of his arms, the softening of his deep-set frown. Jack pressed on, feeling the rhythm of his passion guiding him forward. A recent survey showed that companies investing in employee growth see a 34% increase in productivity, he continued, and a similar increase in employee retention. Those aren't just statistics, they're the pulse of our future. He glanced around the room, his gaze piercing each pair of eyes that watched him. We are on the brink of an evolution. If we lead with empathy and strategic development, we can transition from merely responding to problems to proactively solving them. The room felt transformed. Jack could practically feel the ideas resonating back to him, echoing like a melody. But the moment was fleeting. The sharpness of Nick's gaze returned, slicing through the budding hope. Sure, but how do you ensure we measure the effects of this new framework? You can't just expect trust to resonate among all departments based on personal stories alone. Jack's heart dropped. It was as if a basketball had been slammed against the backboard, and he was left scrambling to catch the rebound. The clarity of his narrative felt endangered, the solidity he'd built began to crack. But then, a revelation struck him. He had been framing this all wrong. He wasn't merely selling a training program, he was inviting them to a partnership in evolution. Let us connect the dots, he said, holding Nick's gaze with newfound tenacity. If we foster a culture of growth, we must establish clear benchmarks, engagement scores, feedback loops, and regular assessments of both professional and personal development metrics. Training sessions can end with collective reflections ensuring that we learn as much from our failures as we do from our successes. He could feel the air change, the tension beginning to dissolve, if only slightly. Colleagues began nodding, assessing this new layer of understanding. Jack straightened up, anchoring into the long-forgotten sense of purpose. He wasn't merely defending his proposal, he was advocating for a vision of mutual growth and development. The softness of vulnerability he'd shown now became a sturdy pillar of resilience. Think of every session as not just a moment of learning but an opportunity to build empathy and collaboration across teams. If we can implement a feedback mechanism that taps into individual experiences, we can develop a deeper, more meaningful understanding of each role. That feeds back into our productivity and strategy. It's cyclical. Yet, implementing this is a significant shift, Nick countered, his brow furrowed with skepticism. Are you prepared to run this initiative alongside your other responsibilities? The question hung heavy in the air, a gauntlet thrown down. Jack's heart raced again, thinking of the burden he had taken on as a single dad alongside this monumental ambition. But he felt it an exhilarating spark. Absolutely, he replied, conviction solidifying his voice. Like any growth worth pursuing, it will take focused commitment, but I want to lead this initiative. I'm ready to champion this for our team and our future. The surprise at what he had just declared left him momentarily breathless. It was a risk that cost more than just an idea, it demanded he confront the depths of his own capacity and potential. Jack noticed the murmurs ripple through the room, imagining the mixed emotions blooming: curiosity, skepticism, a flicker of hope. Let us create something together, he concluded, with a request rather than a demand. Let us invest not just in systems or roles but in the individuals who make this organization thrive. The palpable shift in the atmosphere tensed as Nick leaned back, his brows still knitted, but his demeanor subtly altered. Interesting approach, Jack. I need to see a proposal that outlines how you'll measure this commitment and its impact. Once I see that, we can move forward. As Jack breathed out, a new challenge unfolded before him, dawning with profound clarity. This was more than just a professional pitch, it became a personal mission, rooted in his very belief about growth. But beyond the glimmer of achievement, uncertainty lurked. How would he balance this demanding new venture alongside the juggling act of fatherhood? The path ahead stretched into complex shadows, fraught with obstacles he hadn't fully mapped. The moment to prove himself had arrived, but the ultimate question lingered like a whispered danger. Was he ready to step deeper into this new identity? Could he truly take on the challenge of turning an idea into reality, or was he risking everything he had built? With his next steps echoing in his mind, Jack felt the weight of his choices weaving into an intricate tapestry of consequence just awaiting his hand. The gentle hum of the late afternoon buzzed around Jack as he sank back into his desk chair, the shadows of his initial presentation still flickering in his mind. The proposal loomed large, an intricate puzzle that needed assembling, and yet anxiety twined itself around him like ivy choking a sturdy oak. He had spoken with determination, ignited by passion and clarity, but now the stakes felt terrifyingly real. Not only was he trying to steer a new course for his company, but he was also standing at the crossroads of his identity as a father. His phone buzzed, cutting through the silence. It was a reminder for his daughter's dance recital later that evening. A swell of pride mixed with his apprehension about the daunting challenge ahead. He had promised Clara he would be there to cheer her on, yet visions of corporate meetings and the deadline for his proposal danced in his head. Balancing these two worlds felt like trying to juggle chainsaws and hand grenades. Jack took a deep breath, honing in on the task ahead. To begin his proposal, he had to map out his core vision into actionable steps. With a surge of resolve, he swept his laptop open, the screen illuminating his face. It wasn't just numbers or theories he was juggling, it was a commitment to carving out a better future for both his team and Clara. He created a blank document, the cursor blinking with unrelenting demand. This was the moment to connect the dots between his ambitious ideas and measurable outcomes. He began structuring ideas, starting with employee engagement metrics and feedback loops. What was it they could learn from their current weaknesses? How could they shift perspectives to foster resilience? As he typed rapidly, the words gained momentum. He outlined a series of workshops, designed for cross-departmental interactions, embedding moments of tactful feedback into everyday practices. Each wave of thought flowed into the next, building towards a synthesis of culture and people-first metrics. But further clarity didn't come without self-reflection. A wave of doubts reared its head. Was he equipped to facilitate such change? Despite his furious typing, the voices of skepticism floated through his mind, echoing Nick's critiques. He was venturing into unfamiliar territory, and shining a spotlight on his own vulnerabilities became more daunting than he thought. In an effort to dispel the shadows of doubt, he recalled his own upbringing. His father had always believed in the power of learning from failure and advocating resilience. That unwavering commitment had unearthed a deeper layer of motivation in Jack, compelling him to confront uncertainty head-on. He paused, hands hovering over the keyboard. What if he could channel that sentiment into the workshops? What if the very foundation of his proposal included personal stories, his, that of others, transforming them from statistics into shared experiences that forged connections? This wasn't just a new framework, it was a discovery waiting to be embraced. Steering back into action, Jack shaped his mission statement, weaving in concepts of empathy and growth. He envisioned a culture where employees would not only feel a sense of belonging but also actively contribute to their evolution. With each typed word, he could almost envision Nick's initial skepticism fading into intrigue. Jack's fervor grew. He realized this initiative went beyond data and charts. This was a tribute to the people, their potential, their emotional investment in their roles. His focused energy became a compass, unearthing hidden talents both within himself and in those he sought to uplift. Lost in the rhythm of his thoughts, the hours slipped by until the glow of his laptop was the only light illuminating the remnants of his brainstorm. The euphoria of creation washed over Jack, pushing back against the weight of apprehension. With a deep breath, he rounded out his proposal with measurable metrics and feedback mechanisms that he hoped would resonate on every level. It had to reflect his vision clearly enough for Nick to see the impact. Yet beneath the thrill of achievement, a lingering thread of unease tightened. Could he maintain this fiery momentum while ensuring that he didn't disappoint Clara or compromise his role as a father? Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, reminding him it was time for the recital. Sliding the document into a single save, Jack closed his laptop, ready to support his daughter in her moment of spotlight. As he walked toward the door, one thought gnawed at him. Was this newly formed dedication an idea enough to forge a pathway where personal and professional success intertwined? He stepped into the afternoon twilight, uncertainty thrumming in his veins, wondering if he could truly balance the scales or if he was on the brink of losing everything he valued. The path forward had just begun to reveal itself, but it was fraught with peril and promise alike. What awaited him in the coming hours became a nagging question in his heart as he headed into uncertainty. Jack Thompson stood on the precipice of a challenging new chapter, one where his aspirations and responsibilities converged. The recital hall was vividly lit, filled with the soft glow of fairy lights and the excited whispers of families gathered to witness their children shine. As Jack caught a glimpse of Clara on stage, he felt an overpowering swell of pride. Her beaming smile mirrored the joy he craved to cultivate in his own life both as a father and a professional. The applause erupted like a chorus of triumph as Clara twirled, her spirit dancing freely, reminding him of the very essence of resilience. That moment ignited in Jack a renewed clarity. He was striving to create that same spirit of joy, growth, and adaptability in the lives of his colleagues. After the performance, Jack wrapped Clara in a warm embrace, the innocence of their shared happiness illuminating their connection. It was then the realization struck him hard. The journey ahead was not just a corporate battle, it was about advocating for a culture that allowed people to flourish. That night, as they returned home and settled into a comforting routine, Jack found himself consumed by his proposal. His vision for the workshops began to crystallize into something tangible, something that resonated with the deep-seated values he had always held. Weeks poured into meticulous planning, a whirlwind of meetings and conversations that unveiled hidden potential among his colleagues. Jack transformed into a relentless advocate, drawing on Clara's spirit as inspiration. The proposal he crafted melded professional development stats with personal narratives, emphasizing engaged and fulfilled individuals as the backbone of success. Each workshop blueprint focused not only on skills but on empathy, collaboration, and personal stories, revealing the humanity often overlooked in corporate structures. When he stood before the board again to present this refined vision, he saw more than just skeptical eyes. He saw echoed glimmers of understanding in their expressions. Jack began by recounting his journey, from technician to advocate, emphasizing that beyond the balance sheets and KPIs, it's the individuals, their trials and triumphs that build an organization. Every story holds weight, he asserted, his voice steady, commanding. When we invest in our people, we're creating a foundation for success unlike anything we've seen. The workshops aren't merely a checkbox on a list, they're our response to a changing industry landscape. Our adaptability is our strength. The dialogue that followed buzzed with energy. Input from weary colleagues blossomed into a passionate discussion, interspersing hope with skepticism. Yet Jack remained anchored, determined to explore every avenue of resistance, inviting dialogue about concerns with funding, participation, and timelines. Let us identify manageable pilot programs, he urged, inviting everyone to collaborate on solutions rather than linger on challenges. We could even launch an internal campaign focused on highlighting success stories that come from these workshops, building momentum based on concrete outcomes so that when the next quarter rolls around, we'll have metrics to substantiate our impact. As he spoke, he noticed Nick shifting in his seat, a contemplative demeanor replacing the initial skepticism. It was with a bold flourish that Jack unveiled a survey he had designed, emphasizing employee feedback as paramount to the workshop's survival and proving that their voices would guide the growth of the initiative. Culture isn't static, Jack continued, his confidence reverberating through the room. It evolves with each individual who contributes their uniqueness. If we establish this as part of our core identity, we're not only investing in our present but also nurturing the legacy we leave behind, an engendered culture of learning and resilience. As the presentation concluded, the room erupted into applause. The strong response echoed in Jack's heart, affirming a transformative truth. Not only did he seek to champion a better work environment, but the journey had also fueled his growth into a recognized leader who could navigate and mold the complexities of professional life while embracing the beautiful chaos of fatherhood. In the following months, the workshops took form, flourishing alongside Clara's dance recitals, school activities, and family outings. Jack found a rhythm, a delicate balance perfected through the chaos of deadlines and the joys of raising a spirited child. The recognition from peers soon poured in. Jack was no longer just the handyman. The title was replaced with respect and collaboration. Firmly established in his expertise, he had proven tangible success throughout the initiatives, bringing metrics to bloom as they saw improvements in engagement and results. Looking out over the fields of opportunity, Jack felt a profound sense of accomplishment and growth coalesce within him. He had not only ignited a transformation at work but also embodied the resilient father he aspired to be. In the end, Jack had succeeded not just in winning the board's approval but in redefining his role and forging a future rich with purpose. With Clara's laughter echoing behind him, he embraced the synergy of his dual identity, a journey persistently fueled by tenacity, heart, and authenticity. Jack had finally arrived, a man no longer standing on the periphery, but firmly in the light, confidently advocating for a new era where craftsmanship, empathy, and resilience take center stage. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share. Real empowerment begins with you.